Welcome to Between the Sheets, the non-judgmental podcast where we're going to cover various sexual health and wellness topics. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Zwonitzer. I'm a urology and sexual health nurse practitioner, and I love helping my patients and listeners discover and develop their most satisfying sexual experiences. Between the Sheets is here to normalize the conversations about sexual health and cover everything from basic anatomy to the most taboo topics and everything in between. Real talk, real pleasure, one episode at a time. So come on, let's get between the sheets. Hey, welcome back to Between the Sheets. We have a fun guest on with us today. We have Chelsea McLeod, and she is a corporate dropout turned health professional. She is helping high-level clients who have stressful lives, stressful jobs, all the things, get their optimal health so they can have great sex lives, great work life, all the balance in life, all from getting our gut fixed, our hormones fixed, being our healthiest self. So welcome, Chelsea. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Welcome. I'm excited to have you here and to talk through all these things because I think, what I've noticed is life just keeps getting more stressful. And the higher you get in your career, there's more stress, there's more time commitments, there's all these things. So how did you kind of get into this to start helping people live their best lives while also achieving high levels of success?
I always say I had to heal myself before I could help others heal. And so in the process of, spending 10 years grinding away in corporate and doing all the things, I found that my body just couldn't keep up. And I never got to the point of, burnout or gaining 50 pounds, but I was able to sustain this kind of constant hum of stress and exhaustion and sleeping very little. And my jeans didn't quite zip. And there just came a point where I was like, I can't keep functioning like this. I'm exhausted. I'm snapping at my team. I'm not enjoying my career. I just want to feel normal. I want to feel real energy again. I want to feel like my skin isn't breaking out. I want to feel like my hair isn't falling out. And so that's where I really had the requirement of doing the inner work, of doing the physical work on my hormones to heal so that I could actually look and feel the way I wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah. And now you're not at like a major crisis in life of menopause or postpartum or anything like that. These are just your everyday hormones that you needed to figure out and balance out because of your lifestyle.
That's exactly right. And I think that's such an important point because, I was in my late 20s. So I was still pretty healthy, all things considered. I'm a college athlete. I was exercising every day. I taught spin. I lifted weights. Like I was doing everything right. I was eating the salads. I was doing everything. But it wasn't really producing the result that I thought it should, considering how much work I was putting in and the supplements and the time at the gym. I was always the healthy girl at the office, but I didn't feel like the healthy girl at the office. And so what I always say is for me, I was 27, my hormones should have been pumping, but for a woman who's going through menopause or recovering from having a baby, you're so much more vulnerable to the effects of stress, to the effects of depletion. And so for those women, it's almost like special populations that we need to give extra special tools to help them balance their hormones and feel the way they want to.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's so important even when you're not in those phases to get your hormones balanced so you are at optimal levels of health. So talk to me about the clients that you work with. You do work with men and women. And so you kind of get people who are coming to you at where you were at, they're higher levels, they're successful, but they're just getting close to this burnout negative cycle. I always call it the skinny fat version, right? Like you look healthy, but you're not healthy.
Totally. I think women, especially high performing women, as you know, Steph, it's like they can tolerate so much for so long. Like they can feel like crap for years before they do anything about it. So typically the type of woman or man I help, they've been dealing with the poor sleep. They've been dealing with the exhaustion. They've been dealing with the stress, the anxiety, the weird cravings. But the straw that breaks the camel's back is always, I've gained 20 pounds. Or I have my daughter's baptism or a wedding coming up. And I'm like, I don't like the photos that I'm in. I don't fit in my clothes. Like I'm just carrying all this stress weight and I want to do something about it because, going to the gym more and eating more salads isn't really working. So let's figure this out. So it's kind of like a cluster of symptoms, but it's kind of always set off by a weight situation.
Yeah, for sure. And so what do you do when you have somebody call you and how do you kind of start working with them to get to the bottom of what their issues are before you even start helping them?
So before a client even comes on, I need to understand a very comprehensive list of everything you're experiencing. So whether it's, I get a lot of low libido, especially with
Hmm.
corporate clients who are in very high stress roles. We know
Yeah.
that libido tends to drop when stress is high. And we can
Yep.
talk a little bit about hormonally what's going on there. But, I need to know if they're having gut issues. I need to know if
Hmm.
they're sleeping. And if they're sleeping, is it because they're not choosing to sleep or they're trying to sleep and not able to fall asleep? So pulling together all these different symptoms, how long has the weight been there? Like, when did this start? And is it in a specific part of your body or is it everywhere? Does it
Hmm.
feel like inflammation? Do you get headaches? All sorts of different things. So I can really understand what the underlying root cause is, and I can do a little bit of detective work, get out my little microscope and kind of see what's happening under the hood so we can rebalance the system so that
Hmm.
that person can feel and look better at speed, because there are so many solutions. I think a lot of women, and I'm sure you see it all the time, they're just like, oh, this is just how it's supposed to be after menopause.
Right.
This is how it's supposed to be when you have a baby. And it's like, it's common, but it's not normal. And there's
Yeah.
solutions for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of things that we just accept with aging that we're like, well, every grandma I see has an extra 20 pounds on her than she should. Or every mom has never touched her hair in 20 years because she's so busy with the kids. Or there's certain things that we just kind of accept as this is normal when it's not actually normal. It's just accepted because we live these lives that, don't allow us to have the best health. And so I think it's so important, like you're saying, to get to the root of it and be able to fix where the disconnect is actually coming from.
That's right, especially in a country and society that's not really set up with health and hormonal health in mind, right? It's almost like you
Yeah.
have to learn the tools and skills to biohack it, because just living like everybody else is not going to produce the result that you want.
Right. And I think too, when you bring up society, I think about drinking, right? Alcohol is so popular in our society. You go to happy hour after work, every event you ever have has alcohol at it, every party, every barbecue. Every time you need to wine and dine clients, look, wine and dine, right? We say it
Mhm.
right there. And so that is a huge thing. I quit drinking about 2 years, almost 2 years ago now. And I was not an alcoholic. So I do have a sip here and there. I just went on a cruise with my boyfriend. So I had a glass of wine at dinner a couple nights. And what's interesting to me is when I gave up drinking, I lost all of the inflammation. I lost all of my joint pain, different things like this. My blood pressure went down, wonderful health benefits. So what was interesting on this cruise when I had a couple of glasses of wine, and not in one night, like a couple glasses total, my ankles started to swell. I started to not sleep well, all these things. And I'm like, gosh, that just so messes with you. And that's just one part of it. That's not talking about the processed foods, the fried foods, all of the additives and things like that. That's just one aspect of it. So when you think about our overall health, and like you said, what we get out of society, it's insane that we even function at any level.
It's so true. It's like, how are any of us alive right now?
Yes. Yeah. We were talking about that at my son's football game the other night. We were having the nachos with the cheese that's not real cheese. And we're like, gosh, this yellow number 5 tastes good and this red,
Yeah.
whatever. Like, you're not eating real food, but like, what are you supposed to do? You're at the football game and you're hungry. So you're going to go get what they have at the snack shop, Like, it's great. So
It's your only choice. You're just
it
doing your best.
is.
You're making the best possible
Right.
choice. And
Right.
sometimes it's yellow dye number 5.
Right, right, yes. So talk to me about how you start to work with these clients and get them doing healthier things and healthier lifestyle things. Like, what are some of the things that you start with?
So, one of the most effective things that we can do is run their functional medicine lab tests. And for
Mm,
most people, this is so eye opening because they've been to their primary care and run a
mhm,
hormone panel. And the hormone
mm,
panel says everything's normal. And they're like, okay, well, then why do I feel like I'm on death's door? And why am I carrying 20
right.
pounds of weight that doesn't feel like it should be there? And I haven't actually changed much about my eating habits. And why am I experiencing all these symptoms? So we can typically get to the bottom of what that's really about. And sometimes that's really powerful because it's not only very validating for the client, but it's also it allows us to very clearly target the underlying root cause instead of just putting a band-aid on a bullet hole. So for some people,
Yeah.
it's, hey, here are some really powerful functional medicine supplements in therapeutic doses that can help you sleep better. And help calm your nervous system so that you can start to see your libido increase and start to create some safety in your body so you can release the weight. Sometimes it's, hey, let's do a liver detox because you're actually showing high levels of toxicity and inflammation. And if we can just remove what your body has too much of and give it more of what it doesn't have enough of,
Mhm,
we can really start to feel better fast and release weight quickly. And so, we we do things like balancing blood sugar, looking at meal timing, meal composition, just getting people eating real food, right? And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we have to cut out everything and that they can't have their
Hmm.
favorite treats, but it does mean, like I always tell clients, we got to do, 80% whole foods and 20% soul foods. So for example, last night I had a friend's birthday dinner and like it was just a flex meal for me. I had whatever I wanted, but I also knew that I was having the birthday cake for dessert. I had a glass
Hmm.
of wine. So I had a little bit less pasta and a little bit more scallops and steak. And I didn't go crazy on the cheese board. And I actually feel fine today. Whereas I know if I was just letting loose and having every single
Hmm.
thing, I would feel terrible, not just that night, but the next morning. And so it's helping
Right.
people create wisdom in their body to know what's too much. Like, how does that
Hmm.
food actually make you feel? And I think people find that once they stabilize their blood sugar and start to eat in a different and more intelligent way, it's so much easier to say yes to the foods that really love you and no,
Hmm.
maybe not as much to the foods that don't love you back.
Right, right. Yeah, that's such an important piece there too, because a lot of us that have, digestive issues or whatever, there you really can do your homework and sit down and keep a journal of your food and say, today was a bad day. What did I eat, drink, and how stressed was I? And the next time you have a bad day, what did I eat, drink, and how stressed I was? And you'll see correlations. I do this with my urology patients who have irritable bladders, and I make them do it because it
Mm.
generally comes from things we eat, drink, and
Hmm.
how stressed we are. And
Huh,
so that's really interesting. I know, right?
who
Who
knew?
figures what goes in actually affects us, you know?
That's so
Talk
true.
to me more about the functional health panel because I think it's important for all of us to understand the differences between what you're looking at and what we're getting at primary care, where they're looking at a basic metabolic panel, our LFTs. What else are you looking at that helps narrow things down better?
So, when we just talk about hormones, right? When a doctor is running a hormone panel, they're pulling your blood, which is a
Mhm,
homeostatic fluid. And you know this
mhm.
as well as I do,
Yep.
but it's like the blood robs from other parts of the body to keep it
Mhm.
balanced. So, if you have an imbalance in your blood, you're in trouble. Like, you've got a
Yeah.
disease. So, I'm not looking for disease. I'm not a doctor. Like, I leave that to the MDs, like yourself. What I do is I help identify imbalances that explain why you don't feel or look the way that you want to. So, I can't tell you the
Mhm.
number of women who have done a hormone panel with their MD, which is looking for disease. And of course, it comes back
Right,
with no disease because they don't have a disease, but they
right.
do have an imbalance. Their estrogen's probably a little bit low. Their progesterone is very low, but their progesterone to estrogen ratio may be a little bit off kilter. And we do this with saliva sample testing. And we look
Yeah.
at cortisol levels, which are typically through the roof for most
Mhm.
people, or they're really low because they've been through a period of very elevated cortisol for years, decades. And so
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're hitting those burnout stages. So we look at things like thyroid, but we need to look at, TSH, free T3, free T4 to make sure you have, available forms of thyroid hormone
Mhm.
that are actually being produced. So it's just a little bit different, right? And I always say,
Yeah.
you know, I I don't like disparaging doctors because I appreciate them. They're here to keep us alive and solve medical problems, but for some people, they just need a different approach where it's like,
Yeah.
going to a doctor and being told to get on Ozempic is probably not the vibe. It's really like
Right.
you got to heal and you got to figure out why you're gaining weight in the first place and make the lifestyle change. And a doctor's that's not their job. Like they have 15 minutes to see you and help
Yeah.
you with a life-threatening issue and send you on your way. Like they're not here to coach you in nutrition and lifestyle. Like that's really a health
Right.
coach's job.
Yeah, and that's such an interesting point to say because, we see these functional medicine clinics popping up all over the place. We see health coaches popping up all over the place. And I think that's a really important distinction that you just made is when you go to a doctor's office, whether it's a specialty or primary care, we're really looking at how can I fix this problem in my box of what I am in control of. I can't tell you how many times I have patients that will come in for other issues and I'm like, okay, I deal with pee and sex issues. I don't deal with your blood pressure being that high. I'm
Mhm.
going to need you to talk to somebody else. Or, hey, while I'm here, can you also renew my whatever medicine? And I'm like, no, I don't do that for you. Like, so I think there's this distinction of when you go to a clinic, we all are in our box. And primary care is a little bit better because they look at everything. But a lot of times, because we don't have enough primary cares in this world, they don't really get into the nitty gritty of anything because they don't have time to, and they send you to the specialist. So then when they come back to you, you're just looking at the overall picture like, yep, like you said, your diseases are all under control. See you later. That's as good as I can get with you. And the coaches and the functional medicine providers are who come in and do all right, let's look holistically. What's going on at work that we can help fix? What's going on in your diet that we can help fix? Your sleep, your hormones, all of the components that make us function better is where the coaches and the functional medicine providers come in. And it's amazing to me to see the difference in my patients that also have them on board versus just the medical community on board. It's a huge difference. And I think it's so awesome that this is getting brought to people's attention. The downside is it's not covered by insurance. Insurance hasn't picked up on it yet because in America, we care more about treating things after they happen than preventing them from happening in the first place. And there's a whole other episode we could do on how to fix that. But for right now, that's where we're at. And so I love that you're doing this and that other people are doing it because it is so important. When you test hormones, do you do it more than once? Is there a particular time of day or month or whatever in the cycle for women that we're looking at? Or how do you kind of know that you got a good picture?
So for saliva testing, we'll typically do, if it's a cycling woman who's premenopausal, we'll do between days 19 and 21. Of their cycle. And there's a reason for that. It's kind of when we want to look at that progesterone rise after ovulation to see what their progesterone levels are doing. And we'll take a 4-part saliva sample. So we take morning, midday, afternoon, night. So usually around 8 p.m. And that gives us a very comprehensive snapshot of what those hormone levels are doing at all parts of the day, all in the same day. Okay. And there's some practitioners like myself who will take it multiple times throughout the month to look at different things, especially with women and fertility. They'll want to see LH and FSH and all sorts of different things. But for the purposes of metabolic issues and weight issues and energy issues, it's typically that will give us what we need. And it'll also let us look at the cortisol curve, which is supposed to be higher during the morning and then kind of drop off as the day goes on. But for so many women, it's low in the morning. And then as the day goes on, it starts shooting up as the day gets more stressful. And then by the evening, they're exhausted, but they can't sleep because their cortisol's through the roof. And so, for men, it's not as important. We'll take that saliva sample to look at testosterone first thing in the morning. We'll look at cortisol throughout the day, but it can be obviously anytime through the month.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. And so bringing it back into sexual health, because I say this all the time, like everything in our life affects our sexual health, and our sexual health is very important. It's not everything, but it is very important. How are you helping people optimize their libido and their, let's say for women, like, our ability to be comfortable having sex, to want to have sex, to have the lubrication and all that? Where are you going? Let's start with women first, because I know it's going to be a difference between women and men. So for women, what are you targeting for them to help them have their better sex lives?
So for women, we need to reduce the load on the nervous system and make sure that their estrogen is in a healthy place. So typically when the women's female sex hormones are in balance, you're not going to have as many problems with lubrication and libido. But a lot of the time, like I always talk about how when cortisol is elevated, it's going to steal and rob from sex hormones for men and women. So anytime you're stressed, and people think stress is just work stress, but when I look at stress, I'm looking at, do you have any gut pathogens? Do you have leaky gut? Do you have food sensitivities that cause a rise in cortisol? Do you have obviously environmental toxins that could be causing stress inside your body that you're not even aware of? You could have a parasite, which is less common, but it does happen. Do you have any kind of infection that could be causing stress? And all of that can influence our libido. And so most women think, well, I'm not super stressed at work, but you could have all these other stressors that you don't even know about. And so we need to first get cortisol under control so you can actually produce estrogen so you can get lubricated. And for men, it's like you could be stressed from work, but you could also have any of these stressors and see a knock to your testosterone. And so giving people the lifestyle tools, the functional medicine supplements to get cortisol under control, get sex hormones back where they should be, people see a massive change.
And so what are some tips for our ladies first that can help them start to get better sleep, get better control of their nervous system that they can start with?
A good night's sleep always starts in the morning. And so I always tell women, if you live in a place climate allowing, getting outside and getting sun on your face before you look at your phone. And this is some of the hardest things that you could do, right? It's so simple, but it's super, super effective. Jump starting your circadian rhythm, keeping the phone away, like it's still in bed until an
Mhm.
hour after you have woken up and gotten sun on your face, even if it's just a 10-minute walk outside, doing
Mhm.
things like, having breakfast between 8 and 9 a.m. and having your coffee after breakfast is super effective for women as far as just stabilizing their nervous system throughout the day, keeping cortisol
Mhm.
at bay, and learning the skill of balancing your blood sugar so that you're eating well-rounded whole meals instead of snacking all day. Super,
Mhm.
super effective. And it's also really helpful, obviously, for weight loss. So when it comes, I always give people the 3-2-1 method, which is 3 hours before bed, stop eating, 2 hours before, stop drinking, including water, and then 1 hour before, either pop your blue light blocking glasses on if you have to look at screens or put the screens away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so important. And I think one thing that I talk to my patients about is just because you're in bed doesn't mean it's your what counts as your sleep time. We're talking about quality sleep. So uninterrupted, sleeping through the night except to get up to
Hmm.
pee, which hopefully is minimized, and getting right back to sleep if you do get woken up. But it's really that the quality of your sleep really matters, especially for balancing out your hormones.
Totally. And I love that you're speaking this language because I think men, if they're not sleeping 8 hours a night, they're not producing testosterone in the right
Yep.
amount. So it's like we have to get these basics right. And like I can't even have a conversation with someone about their ADHD or their low libido or whatever they're complaining about until I'm like, how much are you scrolling on your TikTok a day? How much
Right.
processed food are you eating? I can't even have a conversation with you until we sort that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we get all these dopamine hits throughout the day. And instead of it being good for us, it does the total opposite and actually makes our brain crave more of those dopamine hits. And then our normal things that should be bringing us joy and good things in our life and balancing our hormones don't because we're just constantly seeking these dopamine hits. It's really incredible how much it has affected us.
It's crazy. And I think people, I think part of them knows, but doesn't want to.
Mhm. Yeah.
And sometimes they want a person like yourself, like they want a doctor, they want an authority, and they see doctors as such an authority. Like they want a doctor to tell them what to do, right? And so if
Yeah.
it's doctor's orders, they'll take it seriously. But until then, it's like, oh, I'm just going to keep doing this. What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And even then, it's like these guys come in and talk to me about their low testosterone. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm happy to get you on replacement therapy, but I need you to get better sleep, eat a better diet, and lift some weights to do your part too. And how many of them just automatically say, yeah, I'm not going to be able to sleep better? It's like that is like, I'm sorry, that is
Mm,
the basis of all of our health issues is the fact that we don't sleep well or enough. And it affects
yeah.
everything. If I could just get everybody to get 6 to 8 hours of good quality sleep, oh my gosh, I would be the best practitioner out there.
Well, it sounds like you're doing great because I feel like so many people don't even know about this stuff. I mean, testosterone is produced in your sleep. Like,
Yeah.
this is what men need to understand. If you're not sleeping, you're not cooking testosterone. Like, that's how
Right.
it works.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm sure you see it because you work with such high level, high stress clients who are working crazy hours and doing the client dinners and the client golf out trips and all these things. So they have crazy hours that they're working and then they're just tanking their testosterone. I see it a lot in blue collar workers too. They get up at 3 or 4 in the morning, they go work all day, then they're coming home
Hmm.
and helping take care of the family, going to kids' games. And they're maybe getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep, if that. Well, no wonder your testosterone's in the tank.
So sad because I feel like some people are genuinely doing their best, but it's about having tools to like fit it into a crazy life where you're up, you're
Mhm.
doing, I don't know, you're a plumber, you're fixing roofs at 6 a.m. It's like, how do we
Yeah,
get you the tools to help you get to sleep faster and get higher quality sleep with what you have?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Tell me, one of the other things that I know that you have helped a lot of people with is regulating their nervous system to help have less outbreaks of HSV2. So HSV2 is herpes simplex virus.
Mhm.
It's the genital version. However, most of us don't really differentiate anymore between one and two because one shows up below, two shows up above. They're all kind of mixed now. But I know that that's something that you've taken to heart and really helped people with so they don't have to take like the daily valcyclovir and things like that to help reduce their outbreaks. Talk to me a little bit about that because herpes is extremely common and for people who have it, there's still this sense of shame with it too, where there should not be. It's no different than you got the chicken pox as a kid and you get shingles later in life. Like it's so common. It's not a big deal. But there are ways to help control your outbreaks. And I know that's something that you have focused on.
There are so many women and men who have herpes, and they kind of come when they start working with me, they say it like they're really embarrassed and they've never told anyone or they feel very ashamed of it. And the first thing we have to do is just support them emotionally, to be like understanding how normal it is, creating safety in the body so that that person doesn't feel like they're an outcast, like they're,
Mhm.
scarlet lettered, and saying like,
Yeah.
let's just create some safety in your body, learning emotional tools to regulate, to
Mhm.
express emotions. Because a lot of women will have outbreaks when they're not only going through a stressful work time, but when they're going through a stressful personal emotional time,
Mhm.
when they're feeling all these feelings in their body that create
Yeah.
outbreaks. And so it's learning emotional tools of how to expand and move emotions through the body. Like I have a method that I use for clients where we just expand that feeling so that you can feel it instead of microdosing it and getting an outbreak every month. But then there's also just practical tools that we can do. Obviously, diet. There are
Mhm.
high arginine foods that can increase likelihood of breakout. And so it's like, hey, can we reduce the coconut for a little while? Can we reduce the chocolate? Can we
Mhm.
increase some other foods? Can we take maybe this L-lysine supplement, this vitamin C, this zinc to just keep your nervous system under control? Can we do the box breathing when we're feeling stressed? Can we, eat a little bit less processed food, maybe reduce coffee or have just one cup after breakfast? Because, we don't want to take coffee away from anyone. That's not the vibe.
That's
But
right.
can we reduce acidity in the body? Can we, learn how to identify when your cortisol is starting to rise, when your nervous system is
Mhm.
starting to be activated, right? So
Mhm.
all these tools together really help create fewer outbreaks for people. And that doesn't mean it cures herpes by any means. But
Right.
I mean, I know a lot of women who are no longer taking medication every day and maybe they get an outbreak once a year. Some of them don't have
Yeah.
outbreaks at all. But at the
Yeah.
beginning, it can be so intense for someone who just got diagnosed and
Yes.
whatever. It's so intense, but really stabilizing and healing. And for a lot of these women, what's so interesting, Steph, is that a lot of women will kind of have this experience of herpes, whatever physical condition, but it's actually an invitation to do the deeper work. And so it's ultimately that thing that helps them slow down and start to realize that they need to take care of themselves. And if they never had that experience, they would have never slowed down. They would have never gotten healthy. They would have never gotten their exercise under control. For a lot of these women, they're overtraining, they're training too much. And this is what causes them to slow down and focus on healing and working with their cycle and right sizing their life and managing stress and eating the right things. And so it can be really powerful to have one of these experiences. Oftentimes, getting HSV is like ultimately what the catalyst that women will take to do the inner work to like make the
Mhm.
lifestyle change because they realize they can't keep over exercising, they can't keep eating like shit, they can't keep blah, 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 blah. So that's where we can leave
Right.
off.
Okay. All right. Perfect. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think there's so much that we can do to help get it under control. And I think one of the biggest things to help regulate the nervous system, especially when you first get diagnosed, is taking that shame away. Like, I would just want people to understand how common this is. And it's so common that it's literally not even part of the standard STI testing that you go in for annually. And the reason is that because some people never get outbreaks and they're carriers their entire life, and we have no idea why they don't get outbreaks. And there's other people who get repeated outbreaks and we get them on medicines or get them the help, like you're saying, with the diet and the supplements and things. So there's so much unknown about it, but it's truly the same. It's almost the same virus as when you got chickenpox as a kid and you get shingles outbreaks later. I mean, it's a different herpes virus, but it's still a herpes virus. It doesn't mean that you're dirty. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. Okay,
Yeah.
so we break away the shame. We get people on some of these supplements and stuff. Talk to me about the supplements because the supplement industry is huge and in the United States, not very well regulated. So I usually suggest my patients look for European brands of supplements because they have better regulations than we do. What's kind of your take on that, on the supplements that you use,
Mhm.
both for helping your people with HSV, but also they're balancing their hormones?
This is so important because I think most Americans are going to Costco and grabbing vitamins and thinking that
Yeah.
it's great. And it's like, no, that's not the vibe. Like, if you, number one, I mean, I'm very results oriented. So
Mhm.
I don't want to just tick a box and say I'm taking a multivitamin. I want results for myself, for clients. And so we always have to go functional medicine brands that
Mhm.
are designed by practitioners. And so a lot of these are not necessarily available in grocery stores. There are some, but in general, I say, like, work with a practitioner who pure encapsulations. Aqualife is an amazing one. They have functional medicine supplements that are available online that you don't need access to a practitioner to get.
Mhm.
But I would say, like, if you're getting your supplements from a drugstore, they're probably not doing much for you. And if they are, they could also be doing harm, because if they're not third-party lab tested, that's another risk that you're
Yeah.
putting, because we've seen so many heavy metals in different supplements and protein powders. So I would say just third-party lab tested and functional medicine formulated by a practitioner would be the way to go.
Okay. And what are some of your favorite supplements to help people kind of regain their balance their hormones, and, get their sexy drive back?
So if we're talking specifically about boosting testosterone, there's always
Mhm.
things like Tongkat Ali, which is an amazing thing to help boost testosterone. But there's also, those are the more fancy things that we use specifically for kind of like sexual health. But when we look at the body as a system, it just needs to have the raw materials to do its job. So I always start people on a very high quality practitioner grade multivitamin, multimineral, getting them on things like zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, and omega-3 is
Mhm.
incredibly powerful, and people, their body just starts operating differently. Their skin starts to change, their hair starts to change, their energy levels start to change depending on the person and what supplements or medication they're on. Sometimes a
Yeah.
methylated B vitamin can be super effective for energy and things like low mood. And then, depending on their hormone panel and what we see come back on that, if they have super elevated cortisol, we'll do things like ashwagandha. I
Mhm.
love, full spectrum organic CBD is really effective
Mhm.
at night to help with sleep. And obviously getting people to sleep with things like L-theanine, GABA, 5-HTP, and melatonin as well.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting to me when you bring up melatonin is the dose that people take is ginormous compared to what we actually need. Like when you just go and grab the 20 milligrams of melatonin, like you
Yeah.
are flooding your body with so much melatonin. Our bodies make like micro doses of melatonin. And
Mhm.
so, like, it just kills me when I watch
Yeah.
people just dumping melatonin into their system. Like, you're messing everything up by taking way too much melatonin. So, I think it's really important, like you said, to get the quality brand, to work with a
Totally.
practitioner while you're doing it, and just kind of do it correctly versus just willy nilly, oh, I heard this is good for me and throwing it in.
Totally. And that's the thing. I mean, what's great is that people are being proactive, right? They're on
Hmm.
TikTok and they're like, I should be taking magnesium. And that's great. But like, girl, there are 12 different kinds of magnesium. Like, there's so many different types of magnesium. So, like, if you actually want the result, that's like, just skip the line and work with someone who knows what they're doing, because you're going to save a lot of money and time, and you're going to get where you want to go faster. And so I think a lot of people are just kind of like raw dogging their medical health or just lifestyle related plan without someone who knows what
Hmm.
they're doing. And so it's like, just cut the line. Go find someone
Yeah.
who knows how to do this right, so that you can actually get the result faster.
Yeah, I agree. And it's so important because, yes, if you look at going to a provider and your initial consultation is going to be $250, and then maybe you have to get some supplements after that. And so your initial investment, let's just say, is $500. That sounds like a lot of money. But when you think of the benefit of getting your health tailored to you, and then going forward, your appointments are a little bit cheaper. You're not getting as many supplements, or you're on a regimen of where you're buying them so often so you can plan for it and things like that. It's really important. And the way that our health system is in the take care of what's already happened, and we don't provide for preventative medicine, you're actually saving yourself money in the long run by investing up front on the preventative measures. That's what I see all the time, and it drives me nuts that our healthcare system is so focused on
Mhm.
fix the problem afterwards, not prevent it, but that's just the reality of where we're at. So when you can work with people who are so focused on the prevention and the healthy lifestyle so you don't ever get to the sick part, you're really saving yourself time in the long run, money in the long run, days off of work, days off, you can use your days off for your vacation instead of because you're sick.
Oh my god, what you're saying is so true, and I think for half of what my job is to help people have to elevate their money mindset around their
Mhm.
health. And it's
Yeah.
like, so many people are like, "Oh, I don't wanna go do this test," or like you said, $500. Oh my god. It's like, okay, what result is important to you? Do you wanna
Mhm.
look good? Do you wanna feel good? Can we look at the return on investment? Like, I'm a businesswoman. I come from the business world where it's like, we have to look on the return of investment for
Mhm.
everything we spend money on. So it's like, if I'm spending these $5 on this thing, what am I getting back? It's like, okay, I'm spending the $500 on this personalized lab test to then get a personalized protocol that's going to give me more energy so I have more time to play with my kids. It's going to help me sleep better so I'm not snapping at my wife. So I'm actually able to have sex with my husband again. So I'm actually able to produce more at work and not just chase my tail, and then get a promotion that will allow me to create the body that's healthy enough to hold a pregnancy. That it's
Mhm.
like people have to want something on the other side, but we have to first elevate our money mindset and say, my health is an investment, and we could invest in 401ks, we could invest in investment properties, but if we're not investing in our health, it doesn't matter
Mhm.
what's in our bank account because we're just waiting
Right.
for a diagnosis or a disease. That's then going to cost us $20,000 to have a surgery and
Right.
$1,000 a month to get chemo and, you know, $50 a month to get medication to manage it for the rest of our lives. And we feel like crap. So it's like,
Mhm.
we just have to change the way we think about money. And one thing I always tell about clients, or what I always tell women to do when they have a conversation with me, because my program is an investment. It's an
Mhm.
investment for women who want to heal at the root so that they can release the weight, so that they can look the way they want to in that photo and also feel amazing and get the promotion, meet the partner, be a better parent to their kids, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so these women are investing in a transformation. They're not investing in someone's going to tell me what to eat. It's like they're investing in a true transformation. And so
Right.
sometimes for women who maybe aren't making as much money, the conversation has to come back to, can we see this as a one-time investment to learn the skills to
Mhm.
carry you through the rest of your life so that you can look and feel the way you want to and really have the energetic impact that you want in this life? And it's
Mhm.
like so many women are sick. So many women are not balanced. They're not healthy. And therefore, they're not thriving in their careers. They're not
Mhm.
thriving as moms. They're not thriving as partners. And it's like
Right.
I just see so many female bodies that are not in their true power. And so that's like why I quit my job. Like I was making a lot of money in corporate. Like life was great over there and I
Yeah.
didn't hate my job. But it's like I see this as such an urgent problem. Like
Yes.
it is so urgent to me. And this is why, like, on my podcast, I go off on these like tangents of being like, you have to invest in your health. Like, you have to want to, obviously, but there's
Right.
just like, there's no better thing because it doesn't matter how much is in your bank account. If you're
Mhm.
healthy, you have nothing.
Right. I mean, you might not be around for your retirement and getting your 401k because you didn't take care of your health. So it's so important. I
Uh
completely
oh, did I?
agree. And it's important too that it's the factor of all of it. It's our holistic health. And I'm sure that when you have women who's are doing your program and their hormones are still wonky because of perimenopause or whatever, I'm sure that you also get providers who can do the hormone therapy for them on board, make suggestions like that because it is a holistic thing. And the more that we can embody ourselves in our healthiest way, the better our libido is. Like you said, the better we are to our partners, our friends, our kids, and our job. So it affects everything in life. And I just really appreciate your perspective on this and the work that you're doing. I want to give you a minute here before we wrap up to kind of plug your programs and your podcast so people can find you because you have been fabulous. And I know we have only scratched the surface of what you do and what your knowledge is. So tell people where they can find you and how they can work with you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think the world needs more practitioners like you. You're just amazing at what you do. That is so clear in how you speak and how you think. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more on the holistic side, I have a 6-month hormone healing program for high performing women and men who want to release weight, feel amazing, increase libido, just become the person. And for women who just want to get started, I have a podcast called It's Not You, It's Your Hormones. And I also have a free ebook that just has those little micro habits that you can implement in your day. And that's available on my Instagram at Healthy with Chelsea.
And we will also put those in the show notes. I just think people need to go and run and read the tidbits and work with you because it really, I mean, it's just so important to our health. And if you want to be sexy and have that libido and have, your best self, because we don't want to have sex with the lights off and we don't want to have any body image concerns. We want to live our best life and our sexiest life. And so I just think it's so important, the work that you do and for everybody listening and watching to just find whether it's Chelsea or someone in your local community. I know Chelsea works remotely, so she can work with you wherever you are. She has clients all over the world. So definitely check that out. Get to be your healthiest self so that you can have some good, fun, sexy time. I hope everybody has a great week. Thank you again, Chelsea. And everybody, go have some fun between the sheets. Thank you for joining us and exploring sexual health topics here on Between the Sheets. New episodes are available every Wednesday. Please subscribe and rate our podcast so we can reach more listeners. And don't forget to tell your friends, partners, and anyone who will listen about Between the Sheets. Send any comments, questions, or stories to podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. It's all one word, podcastbetweenthesheets@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and go have some fun between the sheets.